Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Next, we're going to cover the next chapter, which is chapter number 6, Agile Modeling and Prototyping. This is the learning objective that we're going to cover in this chapter. The first one, we need to understand the role of Agile Modeling in prototyping and the 4 main types of prototyping. Second one, be able to use prototyping in human information requirement gathering, how to gather the information and put into the prototype. Next, understanding Agile modeling and the core practice. What is the main core practice in the Agile modeling? Lastly, the importance of the value critical to Agile modeling. First, we need to understand the difference between Agile modeling and prototyping. What is Agile modeling? Agile modeling is a collection of innovative, user-centered approach to a system. So it can consider as a method or approach. However, prototyping is an information gathering technique. Okay, so we need to take note that Agile modeling is a method and prototyping is a technique. Okay, next, there are 4 main types of prototyping. Second one is non-operational. Next, first of a series, and lastly is a selected features. Let's see the first one, patch-up prototype. It can consider as a working model that has all the feature but it's not efficient. So we include all the feature in this prototype. However, all those feature is considered not a working system. So we can user can interact with a system even though it's not fully a function. Next, non-operational scale model. So a non-working scale model that is set up to test certain aspect of the design. So it's not a full of system. We select a few model, then we develop a prototype, and even though those model is not fully function, so to test whether that model can be developed properly. Next, first of a series prototype. Prototype is completely operational, so we can consider most of the function or the model of the prototype is working. Useful when we have many installation of the same information system are planned. Lastly, selected features prototype. Building operational model that include some but not all the features. So we selected some features, okay, to develop a prototype. Some but not all essential features are included. So we select some very significant features to include in this prototype. So you can consider as a part of the actual system. So we can consider that is a real system in the future that we're going to develop. Next, there are some guidelines to develop a prototype that we need to follow. The first one, working in manageable model. So we choose the model that we able to manage to develop a prototype. Build the prototype rapidly. So the prototype should be built in the fast way, so rapidly. Modify the prototype in success. Should be capable to modify from time to time. And lastly, the prototype should be stress the user interface, or what user really need to develop a real system. As we can see in this image, so we get the customer feedback, we develop prototypes, then we test the prototype, then we need to listen to the customer again until the prototype can be complete before we develop a real system. Next, there are some disadvantages of prototype. So it can be very difficult to manage prototype if we have a large scale of the project. So from one model to another model, from one department to another department, or from one location to another location, it's not easy to manage the prototype. However, there are also many advantages of the prototype. The first one, which is potential for changing the system early in development. So if we need to change the prototype in the futures, or if we need to change the system in the futures, so by developing the prototype, it can be consider what we need to change. Opportunity to stop development on the system that is not working. So when we test the flow of the prototype, so it's not working, even though the prototype is not working, so we will be not working in the real system. Lastly, possibility of develop a system that more closely address user need. So from the previous image you can see, so we get the feedback, we develop the prototype, and then we test the prototype. So by doing that, we can consider that we get the most closely what user really need. Next, agile modeling. Agile method are collection of innovative. As we know, agile is a method that to collect some user interest, what user require to put into the system. So user-centered approach to a system development. Next, there are some value and principle of the agile modeling. First, you need to have a very strong communication between your customer, between your client, between your stakeholders. So you need to simplify or simplicity. So you need to have feedback, and you need to have a courage. Courage means get the user to involve in this stage as much as possible, and you're going to develop a very successful system in the futures. There are 4 basic activities of agile modeling. The first one, we need to coding. When we done some part of coding, that we choose any proper that 4 method that we're going to, maybe we choose some certain features or some selective features, or we choose the patch up as we covered in the previously. We testing the code, testing the prototype. Then we listen mean we get some feedback from the user before we going to design the real system. Next, there are 4 resources control variable of agile modeling. Okay, this variable is very significant to develop prototypes by using agile modeling. Okay, firstly is time. Of course, time is very significant, where you need to have a proper chart or proper time management in every stage of your develop. Of course, we need to have a cost, so cost also very important. Okay, even though if you have a lot of time but you are running out of cost, so you might not going to have a very successful system. Okay, next is the quality. Of course, if you have a lot of time, you have a lot of cost, but you develop not a quality product, so you're going not to develop a very success system in the future. Okay, next is scope. Okay, as we know, by develop a system, user keep requests to adding new features or change anything that they feel they want to change. So we need to stick on the scope that we have discussed at the first phase. Okay, modeling and structured model. As you can see from this image, agile modeling or agile methods, it's a circle process where the structured method such as waterfall, so the first process fall to another process until the end of the process, and at the end you are unable to roll back any mistaken, or if you want to have a change, it's really difficult. However, by developing the system using agile system in the circle, so you keep rolling the process until you get the most right prototype for the user. So you can consider improving the efficiency of the system development, risk inherent in the organization innovation. Let's have a short summary what we have covered in this chapter. We have covered the prototyping, prototype development guideline, some short guideline, prototype disadvantage and advantage, agile modeling, 5 value of the agile approach, principle of agile development, agile activities, and lastly, agile resources. Thank you.